Hey boys, we are live. This is episode number 34 of the Deconstruction Podcast, brought to you by Jobtable, the simplest way to grow and manage your construction company. Let's, as always, kick it off with our latest review here. This is from our friend Ray. He is an electrical contractor out of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an electrical contractor and have been using Jobtable for more than a month, and so far happy with the program. It is reliable, easy to use platform for quotes, jobs, invoicing, and also compared to other programs is affordable. Short and sweet, but appreciate the review from Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Yes, sir. So boys, how are we doing? We had a 2-week little hiatus here, or 3 weeks, was it?
Yeah.
We're back.
Doing good. You guys are too busy gallivanting around the world while I'm holding down the fort back home.
Feels good. Feels good to be back. Feels good to be back.
Things are grooving with Jobtable. A lot of exciting things happening. Picking up steam as well, right? We're seeing, this is why we got into this business and wanted to, put in the hands of contractors everywhere. We're getting just a lot of amazing feedback from guys like Ray, who left that great review. And so, I'm just delighted that a lot of contractors all over Canada and the US are really starting to use and see the impacts that Jobtable provides every single day. A lot of exciting things in the pipe as well, which I'm sure we will be sharing soon.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that kind of, takes us into the topic, one of the topics we wanted to go through today. It's summertime, people are on vacation, maybe went on vacation, that time of the year where, you unwind and take some time off. So one of the topics we wanted to discuss today is specifically for construction company owners, guys like you. Can construction company owners work remotely? The $1 million question, as Charlie said.
$1 billion question.
So let's break this one down. Charlie, what do we think? Kick it off here. Can construction company owners work remote?
Johnny, you want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Yeah, it truly is the $1 million question. So there's like a lot of aspects to this, and obviously like the size of your company is one of them, right? Because obviously if you're a one-man show, you can't work remotely because you are the muscle, you are the brains, you're the administrator, you're the everything, right? So I'll kind of speak on a company the size of mine and Johnny's, iPlum, right? So 25 to 35 employees, estimator, project manager, secretary, bookkeeper, me and Johnny, and then plumbers out on the field. So where do I start? So my views on this have changed over the years. So I originally thought that there's absolutely no way. So when me and Johnny were smaller, we were growing, I took so much pride in the actual work itself and just kind of getting our name out there that if it wasn't me doing the work and micromanaging everybody, in my mind, everything would fall apart. And it would have, because we just didn't have the guys to do the work and do the work correctly that I could rely on. So I had to kind of just be very involved in that process. Johnny, me and him separated, so he was in the office, he was bidding the job, so he had to learn how, the whole bid and tender process, how to quote jobs accurately, to be within, 3 to 5% of other people, just on those competitive bids. So in the very early days, to me, it's a hard no. It's just not possible, and which makes sense. So you can't expect it. You have to build your name. You have to build up the company. Now, fast forward 15 years, my views on this have changed a little bit, if not a lot. So using Johnny, like everybody's different, first of all. So Johnny, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. And it's not really throwing you under the bus, it's everyone's different. So Johnny just came back from a vacation. He was overseas. And Johnny is the type of guy that he goes on vacation, he wants to just shut off, right? He wants to just be kind of just like, I want to spend the time with my family, I want to enjoy it. So fuck off, leave me alone kind of thing, right? Obviously, if it's an emergency, we need to get a hold of him, we can, but so to speak, that's just kind of like the mentality he has, and I respect that, right? Me, I'm a little different. I really, not that Johnny doesn't enjoy what he does, but I do, and I'm always thinking about work. And when I'm away on vacation, I actually have gotten to a point in my life where I don't even really look at my work as a job. There's never been a day where I've gotten out of bed where I didn't like feel like going to work, where I was like, oh fuck, I gotta go do this again. Never. So it's just kind of a good indicator that I love what I do. So with that being said, where my mentality has shifted is I went away last year and I was able to actually get more work done in 4 or 5 hours than I do in a 10, 12-hour day back home in Toronto. Now, why is that? I was very focused. My phone wasn't ringing as much, so I was really able to kind of like focus on my tasks, on my emails, communicating with my foremans, my guys on site, project managers, and I could, in that 4-hour window, I can really just kind of like hammer out all my work. As where in Toronto, I feel like I'm a lot more accessible. There's the driving kills my day, so I'll spend 4 or 5 hours a day just in traffic, just going from site to site. So now that's where that raises the next question. It's like, okay, well now, if you can't go to site, how are you going to run the company? So I realized in that moment that a lot of the things that you think you need to be in the office for or need to be on site for, you don't actually have to be. So for example, when Johnny was away, I came to the office multiple times just to check in on our estimator, just to kind of go through final numbers. And it wasn't until the second time or third time that I realized, like, I could have totally done this over the phone. There's actually no reason why I had to come into the office. Like, she has the drawings, I have a computer, she can forward me the drawings, we can, have a Zoom meeting, we can pull up the drawings, look at them together, and she can kind of, do a little PowerPoint to ask me whatever question she has. So it's really this caveman mentality, old school mentality, where it's like, I have to physically be in front of you. And I know Johnny will probably, he'll get a chance to speak on this, but I mentioned to my estimator exactly that. And I said, like, everything we've done, we could have really typically done over the phone, right? And the first thing she looked at me, she goes, oh, Johnny would never allow that, right? He wants me here, he wants to see me. And I also get that. Like, there's a sense of like, you feel more productive when you're like side by side, it's more comfortable. It's just, you maybe like you will get things done a little bit faster, more efficiently. But then again, it's just like, what are you trying to achieve? If I don't want to drive an hour and a half to get to the office, then, that's an hour and a half I'm wasting, where I might, it might take me an extra 20 minutes if I'm doing it over Skype or whatever, right? Over Zoom. So that's one aspect. I realized a lot of things. Now, as for going to the site, obviously there are times where I'm needed at the site. But what I really started to break down in my head is, why am I needed at the site? It's for my expertise, right? Most, if not all, company owners, especially in construction, they'll tell you that they are the end all and be all, and nobody cares about the company more than they do. And if they're not here, everything will fall apart, right? Which I think is a very, very negative thing. And it's very ignorant to think that like you're the only one that can run your company. I think they're right, and in the sense that nobody will ever care as much as you do. This is your baby. You raised it. You made it into what it is today. But that doesn't mean that you need someone to care as much for your business. Other than it's more, you need someone that is reliable and has the skill to do the jobs to run your business. They don't have to care about it, right? Where that will kind of balance out is how they're compensated. So if you have very, very skilled guys and they're well compensated for their jobs, essentially that's where the trust will come in. So if I know my foreman can handle a project, a very large project that's complicated, complex, and he's very well paid, and he's not planning on going anywhere, he's naturally going to take pride in what he does, and he's going to care about the job, in turn care about the company. So by finding the right people and putting them in the right positions, naturally, over time, you won't need to go to site. And obviously, if there's these emergencies, if you had to do a Zoom call or whatever, or you can send another plumber to site to kind of give advice, whatever it is. There's always ways to do things. Now, how do you get to these guys where you have a good crew of guys that are trustworthy, that you can rely on? I think that this is where the hiring comes into play and is very crucial. And not only hiring for one job, but hiring for a career, right? And I always tell the guys that come in through the door, we truly pride ourselves on telling you that you're only sitting in this room being interviewed because we want to hire you, and we want to hire you in hopes that you're going to be with us for as long as your career lasts, essentially, right? Whether that actually ends up happening or not, that's to be determined. But we've had guys that have been with us since, 4 months of opening up our company, and they're still here today, right? We have every intention on keeping them on. We don't hire guys just for one project and then kick them out the door. And the reason we do that is for that exact reason, that we hope that we can kind of keep taking steps back from this company over time, right? I don't want to be involved in the day-to-day in 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And I want to give these guys, more responsibility, more power. And in order to do that, you have to have guys that are with you for a long time, that you can train, you can trust, you can rely on, right? So from my position as the guy who kind of runs the jobs and makes sure things get done, and schedule, and constantly changing the schedule, I've come to realize that you have to really earn the ability to work remotely in construction. It's not something that happens overnight, but again, if you're hiring the right people, and you're getting the right type of work, and it's something that you can definitely build towards, right? I'll touch on Johnny's position a little bit, and then I'll let him take it away. And I know he's going to have a lot to say because Johnny has a very different position, right? Johnny, he's very relationship based with these general contractors and builders and owners, where it's very important to be in their face and in front of them and take them out for lunch and stuff like that, right? So there is definitely that aspect to it. But again, to whoever's listening to this, it might be a 5-man company who, they already have their set GCs. They don't need to massage the relationships like we do. Everybody's different. But that's kind of my view on it. I don't know if I kind of forgot anything about it, but
no, there's a lot to unpack here, and I think we'll take it in different ways. But John.
Yeah, like for me, it's like I agree with some stuff of what Charlie says. I don't fully agree with everything, and one of those things is construction is very demanding, and demanding in a sense where, when you talk about working remote, you can do it for a short period of time, but the reality is that this is something that you're constructing. Not everything can be done through a computer screen over the phone. A lot of times, like Charlie said, like in my position, a lot of the clients just want to talk to me. And when they want to talk to me, they want to have a sit down. They want to have a face-to-face. So if I'm in a totally different country and I'm living there and trying to run a company like remotely, it will only take you so far. So to me, when I think about a construction owner like working remote, I look at it from a temporary perspective, right? So if I have to go somewhere for 2 months, sure, it could be done. There's going to be some struggles in between, and there's going to be some people that are just going to have to wait until you get back. Now, the only thing in between there is sometimes there might be missed opportunities, right? I'm the type of guy that when we have clients, I like to service them. I always like to give an A+ service, right? Now, not to say I'm there at every beck and call or every time that they turn over and they want me there right away. Like, no, obviously that can't happen. But the reality is that, I was gone for 3 weeks, and in the 3 weeks it was manageable. But after the 3 weeks, to me, it was like, I have to come back because there was a lot of things I had to tend to. And unfortunately, no matter who you hire, look, you can have great hires, but I am a strong believer that, especially in construction, nobody's going to take it to the point that the owner does, right? Because the owner,
John, sorry, just to put things in perspective, right? Like when you just said there's some things that just couldn't wait anymore, things to tend to. Like what's an example of that where it's like you feel like you need to come back because it cannot be dealt with where you are?
Well, certain things was just the way things are handled, right? So I'm talking to people over a phone, and I'm assuming that they're doing things that they're instructed to do. And listen, they did things that they were instructed to do. But the reality is, in construction, you want to get something done. You want to meet these timelines. You want to make your clients happy. Sometimes you have to break fucking balls. And in order to break balls, you have to be there to micromanage the guys, right? And again, I'm not going to get into specifics, but there was a couple of things that when I got back, everything was set to be handled, and I come back and there's things that weren't handled the way they're supposed to be, right? And then that's when you come back, and now you have a week time to get something done, where before I left, I had 4 weeks thinking that it was ample amount of time. Everybody told me it was fine. And here I am now, hitting the phones hard, breaking balls in order to ensure that this is coming back. Listen, nobody has that iron fist like we have. Nobody understands. They could talk to a project manager, they could talk to an estimator, they could talk to a coordinator, right? They're going to tell them the urgency. But when the person who's paying that company, let's say a supplier, right, and they're flipping the bill and they know, oh shit, here's the owner, they get a different level of respect. They get a different level of, oh fuck, okay, the owner's calling, like now we got to jump on this. Right? And there was a couple of things like that I noticed that, unfortunately, if I'm not in the office, right, everybody's telling me it's going good. And then when I get here and it's like, okay, where's this, where's this, where's this, where's this? And then they give you the list that it wasn't done. Then that's where it's kind of like, okay, now I got to step in. Right?
So but just hold on, just to play devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but imagine.
Yeah, we're not going to go into detail.
Yeah, no, we don't need to. No, we don't need to. But I'm just saying, right? Just to play devil's advocate. Now, let's say you had your vacation was extended by 3 weeks, right? And then you decided, you told your wife, you say, look, I'm going to be working for 5-6 hours a day, right? Mm-hmm. What information are you not able to get by not physically being in the office? Like, could you not realize that, like, oh, this didn't happen, I'm not happy with this? Like, why do you physically need to be in the office? That's what I'm just trying to, like, get to the bottom of, right?
Yeah, so it's almost like the only analogy I can give you, or the only, comparison I can give you, is basically you're a captain of a ship, right? Now you're telling somebody to go drive the ship. You're the captain, but I'm not going to be on the ship, right? That to me, that's the way I look at construction, right? Obviously, there's a lot of companies out there that they do a lot of remote working. Listen, my brother works for a massive company, and they're out of San Francisco, but he's here in Toronto, and they work remotely. And the company he worked for before, it was all inside the office. Now, even talking to him, where it could be a job that's fully remote, he agrees. Where he's like, listen, working remote is great, right? You have your own space. There's nobody interrupting you every 20 minutes, half an hour. But the reality is that the fine points that you need to tune, unfortunately, require a face-to-face, right? Not everything
but do you think
done through a screen.
Do you think though that it's more like we don't have the right processes in place? Like, because if you think about it, technically we could have a Zoom, like let's say me and you are in Europe, right? We could technically have a Zoom call with our team every morning. Not the guys on site, but like our team inside the office. We could have like a 20-minute call every morning, right? Like we do with developers for Jobtable. And we can kind of say, okay, what are you guys working on today? Okay, perfect. And then we could have like, systems and processes in place where it's like we can see what jobs are quoting, what the progress is on that, make them updated. So you can really, manage and stay on top of what they're doing remotely. It's just, you just need the right processes in place to do it, right? Because I just feel like, I don't disagree with you, because like, look, I'm cut from the same cloth, right? But I get it. Like, you can still be the captain. You're not physically on the ship, but you can still steer the ship from the radio, right? You can still tell whoever's on that ship, hey, this is the direction you need to be going in.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, look. I use the analogy of the ship because you'll never find a captain of a ship not on the ship. So let me push it towards like what you do more, Charlie, right? So you're on site, and I've seen this happen many times. So I know you can't argue the fact. Like, listen. Can you work fully remote in construction once you've reached to a certain point? 100%, right? But let's be honest. Things are not going to run as smooth, right? And then, it's going to happen 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Then the clients from the site supers go back to the project managers, from the project managers go back to the owners, and then it starts to look like things slip through the crack. And we know many people that have done this exact same thing, right? So I'm gonna flip it back to like what you do, right? So you don't need to be on site, right? We pay guys very well. They're very well trained. Guys who have been here for 15 years. They understand the way we want things done, and just follow what we tell you to do, right? But how many times do things happen on site, and you've told these guys 100 times, 150 times, don't do it like this, do it like that. If this happens, do this and do that, right? Now there's a problem on site. You'll send them back, right? You'll send them back. Then it gets to a point where it's like, all right, I'm going to go there. You go there, within 20 minutes, it's resolved, right? Mm-hmm. Why is that? Not to say that these guys are not skilled, but they're not skilled enough to make final calls.
I completely agree. I honestly, John, I couldn't agree more. And it actually just happened while you were gone. Like, I go to sites a lot less than I used to. And I go now in certain stages to try to make sure that I'm catching everything, like, okay, before drywall, let me go and take a look, just make sure everything, I can okay it before they drywall. Or, if we have open trenches, let me go take a look at it before they backfill. Just, once there's like, you've reached the point of no return, right? Or about to cross that line, right? So yeah, 100%. And if I'm not there, like so a week ago, I just decided to go on site. I thought everything was running smooth, and I kind of caught like a brain fart mistake by my foreman, which could have, been very detrimental to the project.
And not only, I know like exactly what you're talking about.
And how people view you, like, because the site super might say, what the fuck are these guys doing? And it was just an honest mistake, but that can snowball into a big problem, right? But now with that being said, to your point, you kind of made my point as where it's like you have to have the right people in place. So foremans are going to be, they're going to have their skill. They're going to be foremans, but they're humans at the end of the day, right? I can't expect them to have my skill or your skill or whatever, right? Or a different foreman skill, right? They're going to be who they are. But if you can find the right person who kind of becomes your right-hand man, and you train him to not really be a plumber, right? Or an electrician, whatever trade you're in, but to kind of shadow you, and to kind of drive around with you all day and say, like, look, you're going to go and you're going to be me when I'm not here. You're going to go on site. You know how the job needs to be done. So every day you're going to start at job A, and you're going to go to every single one, and you're going to have this checklist. And again, it just goes back to having like certain processes in place where it's like, you are now going to be my eyes and ears. As long as they understand what you want and what the standard of quality is in your company, that can be taught to somebody. It's ignorant to think that somebody can't do what you do or can't do what I do. I'm an amazing plumber, but it's very ignorant to think that I'm the fucking greatest. I'm God's gift to plumbing, right? No. I can train somebody to do what I do, right?
But you are essentially the gift on site to iPlumb, because no matter how good these guys are, and listen, we have guys that have been plumbing, that work for us that have been plumbing longer than or just as long as we've been born, right? And unfortunately, you're still teaching them, right? So the reality 100%. The reality is this. Look, just to kind of like umbrella this topic and kind of wrap it up in a certain way. It just comes down to, you can work remote to a certain extent, right? And the reason I say to a certain extent is because on construction, you're only as good as your final job. Now, look, there's companies out there where they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It's like, look, man, I put in my 110%. I've done 100 jobs for you. Nothing has happened. Okay, this one job went a little bit sideways, but look, we did what we could. And then this other job, something happened. But when it starts happening one after another, you can lose a client. Then guess what? If you lose a client or lose two clients that are very valuable clients, guess what? Here you come. Not remotely. You got to get back into the game. You got to hit the ground running, and now you got to build up, and you got to make new relationships. So what I say is, look, to sum it all up, I believe that you can work remotely in construction temporarily. Okay, there can be these temporary, like, okay, I'm going to go away for 2 months. You know what I mean? And in the 2 months, yes, I can work from my laptop, and I can share stuff, and I can put processes and procedures. But to fully move to a different country and run a construction company from here, you know what I mean? I personally, I don't think it's possible. And the reason I don't think it's possible is because construction is extremely demanding. Okay. And what I mean by extremely demanding, you might be working with somebody that you have the relationship, they know the way you work, but you know what? In that big company, that person moved on to another company. Now here comes another project manager that you have no relationship with. And now that's the person who's taken over the project. They work in a different way. They need you to come down to site. They don't want to see a foreman. They don't want to see a project manager. They want to look at the owner because this thing happened. And now they want to look in your eyes and see, how do you rectify it? Because I can tell you right now, every relationship that I've had, okay, and I've made in our company has been a face-to-face. Yes, I've probably met them over the phone, but where that relationship really takes off is when you sit down. Because the only way to me to truly feel who that other person is on the other side, and for them to truly feel who I am, right, is a face-to-face. For us to look at each other in the eyes and get a feel for who you are, who I am. Listen, I always say it. How many times have I said it on this podcast? You know, we're all human. We make mistakes. It's all on how you rectify it. And unfortunately, the only way to really see how somebody's going to rectify is reading the person face to face. We just had a new client, Charlie, where we were blown away in the meeting, right? And it's the exact same thing that he said. I need to look at somebody, and the trust that I get in somebody when I'm constructing a $20-30 million building, right? And I'm selecting you to do it, is to have a face-to-face, right? Now imagine telling a guy like that, hey, why don't we have a Zoom call, right? Do you think you're going to get the job?
Look, couple things to that point. So we have a project manager here, right? So maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I had 60 to 80 people that would call me for buildings, okay? And for buildings all across the GTA. So when our right-hand man, kind of our project manager, started working for us, I started kind of diverting the traffic to him, right? And now fast forward a few years, he probably speaks to, let's say, 40 to 50 of these people, okay? And I still speak to the rest. But the point is the people that he speaks to and the new people coming in that speak to him directly, they don't even know who I am anymore, right? Because I've introduced a new face and I've diverted all the traffic to him. So, you know, that could be, obviously this is not the owners of the company, so that's different, but I'm just giving you like an example of an angle that you can take where you can, if you have the right person, and they can become the face, right? If they're well compensated, if they're a good representative of your company, and you can divert traffic to them, and you stay behind in the shadows. Now, to your point, like I know exactly what meeting you're referring to, and that is definitely one that we had to be there in person in order to, you know, to move that relationship along. But that may be where the hybrid model comes in, where it's like, you know, you live remotely, but you know you're not far from an airport where you can just jump on a plane and it's like, hey, I'll be back in a few days. If you have to come in, or you come back home for a week and you line up a couple of golf rounds with some GCs, a couple of lunches with others, a crucial meeting in the middle, you come back for a week and a half, and then you can take off again. Right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no,
that's why
I get your
time,
point, but my thing is, it's like you can't be cut off to it. You can't say like it's impossible. It can't be done.
No.
Where there's a will, there's a way. It can be done. It's just you have to have the right plan of attack.
Yeah, look, like I said, I feel like to be remote full time, it's impossible. That's where I say it's impossible. The only people that I see, right, still to today that have that full remote, right, like you said, like, okay, there's another face of the company. Those are people that are on their way out, and there's new people coming in, but they're also near retirement, right? So that's where it's like, look, the final decisions, I'll make it, but you guys need to take it from here, right? Us, even though we're well established, we've been in the business for 15 and 16 years, right? Call me old school, call me whatever it is. Our industry is very demanding, and in order to keep growing and in order to keep everything running the way it should be, you need to be involved. Now, in that involvement, could it be 80% remotely? 100%. But to me, it's like at least that 20%, you have to be there, right? Because let's be honest, no matter what, we've all faced it, Costa, and I want your honest opinion, right? Because I know you haven't worked for many people in your life. You've always been an entrepreneur, right? But obviously me and Charlie coming up in the game, like, look, Charlie, even people we've worked for, we talk about this all the time. It's like, we were scared of our foremans. We were scared of the guy we were working under, right? We were always trying to be under their best behavior. But when the fucking boss showed up, what happened?
Yeah, no. Well, listen, we're going to put this theory to a test because I plan on being fully remote in the next 2 years. So you're going to have your fucking headphones if I'm wrong.
Look, let me jump in here because this is very interesting hearing you guys discuss this. So obviously, I'm coming at this from a very, different lens. I've been working remotely for almost 20 years. So, so back to the question, right? Can construction company owners like actually work remotely? To me, the answer is yes, like a very clear yes. But like first, I think we have to define what remote is. I think the way you guys are talking about remote is like, what probably a lot of contractors are hearing, like working remotely, they think it means like sitting on a beach while like jobs run themselves. Like that's not it. When I think remote, I just means like, quoting jobs from your home office, right? Scheduling from your phone, sending invoices on the go, like just having the freedom not to actually have to drive physically to your office every day, not having to like go on the site. I'm not talking about like going in a different country. I'm just talking remote. Like we're talking about very different things here. We're not talking about laying on the beach, guys.
Okay. In that sense,
no.
Flexibility. In that sense, then most definitely we ran our company for 8 years remotely.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. That's what I mean. I can argue that you guys, both of you guys, are working remotely without even realizing it.
Yeah, hold on.
You're at an office right now, right?
Yeah.
You're at your desk. You can have that desk like at
no,
your house.
that is 100%. But let me draw a fine line in that definition. You can definitely do that, right? But it's to a certain extent. So now, for example, if you start getting into high rise, right? You start getting into industrial, right? These are companies that unfortunately, right, because it is still an older industry, they need to see that you are established. So if there's no office, right, if there's no shop, if there's no, right, like you can do it to a certain scale, but when you want to start scaling to get on the major projects, right, and bigger projects, there is absolutely no way that you will not have an office. Now, I can have an office, I can have people working out of the office, or even have them working from home, part-time. Like, look, COVID, a lot of people, had to work remotely. It was just me and Charlie coming to the office, right? But the reality is that, a lot of these bigger contractors, these bigger GCs, these developers, these builders, right? A lot of times, they ask, like, right in the meeting, where's your office? Right? And why?
Yeah, look, I'm not disputing that. But again, just because you have an office, that doesn't mean you have to literally wake up every morning to drive to that office.
Yeah, no,
I'm talking about things very differently.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the remote to me is just the freedom. And this is not only for construction. Like we're obviously Jobtable, we're remote, right? But this is also true for a lot of software companies, like your brother's company. And I know a lot of software companies who like are really against remote and they believe in an office setting. But it comes back to like how you establish your company from day one. What do I mean by that is like take Jobtable, for instance. From day one, our DNA was we are a remote company. We will never have an office. So that like from our processes, the tools we use, the softwares we use, like how we communicate with each other, who we hire, how we hire, the systems in place, like all these things. This is built into our DNA. So we are built like a remote company and we always will be.
Yeah.
So, but like relating that to you guys, like obviously like at your stage or any company your stage, you're not going to flick a switch and be remote. Like shit is going to fall apart. But with that being said, I think if you like slowly like start implementing the tools and the processes and, the systems in place and hiring the right people, training them a certain way, there's nothing you can say that, that company can run very efficiently if you're like putting the wheels in motion to do that, right? Like but you're right. You can't do it like flick a switch and think you're going to run remotely when you've been working from an office and on site for 20 years. Like that's just not going to happen. But I think you can slowly like put pieces into place where you can step away and maybe not come to the office, but still be just as productive and effective for like 2 weeks, maybe working from home or like in another country, perhaps.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not talking about never showing your face again. I'm just talking about having, again, to me, remote is the freedom and flexibility to be where you want, when
Yeah.
you want.
Look,
That's
look,
it.
Yeah.
look. Even in like on my vacation, right? When we're talking about that, so it's like, yeah, like, did I invoice on a beach? 100 million%. Did I send quotes from a cafe? 1 million%. You know what I mean? Like right from my phone, wherever I was. Like that's why we built Jobtable, right? I was just taking it in the sense of like fully stepping away, and maybe that's where I didn't fully understand the concept of the question. But working remote and doing a lot of things that people think they need to be behind a computer at a desk at all times, no. 1 million%.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
That's
can
yeah, that's
definitely
what I'm
work.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
Like,
even
look,
Charlie, like Charlie's work, you work remote too. Like how many hours you drive? You work from your truck most of. To me,
yeah.
that's remote work. Like if
Yeah,
you think about it,
I worked from
you
home
know?
yesterday, right? I
yeah,
worked from
That's what I
home
mean.
all
Like
day yesterday.
you
But yeah,
call in from your truck, like
and that's how I took remotely. I took remote as not having to go to
yeah,
your office,
no,
wherever that is. So now
yeah,
that, like Johnny, like your desk, whether it's in your house, whether it's in Portugal, whether it's in fucking Africa, it doesn't matter. It remote is just not having to be at your office,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That is
And,
that is not even a question. That I can fully agree to.
but that's why I was asking you. I was like kind of like prying, like prodding you on those questions. Is like what was it that you can achieve over the phone or over a Zoom call with our
exactly. Yeah.
internal
So
team,
let's break that part down, right? Like
right?
think about every like major like function of a construction company, right? Like think like can this be done remotely? Like yes or no, right?
Yeah,
Estimating and quoting jobs, 100% yes,
100%,
right? Invoicing, payments, like follow-ups,
million
100%.
percent, 1,000,000%,
Scheduling crews,
1,000,000%,
subcontract, 100%. Communicating with like suppliers, employees,
million
team,
percent.
100%. Actually managing jobs, like tracking progress and like timesheets and hours and stuff, 1,000%. Uh, Even like managing employees, like day to day, like what did I miss? Like what major function in any business that you do every day you have to
So
be on site or in an
yeah,
Yeah.
office?
so
Like
those are the only ones that it's like, okay, managing all your crew, I would say 98%. Okay, because you have to show up. You know what I mean? You have to, right? You got to show that you're present, especially when there's a mistake done. You know what I mean? Or you're like Charlie does, and I love the way he does it. He doesn't even tell the guys. He just pops in, right? They tell him, oh, everything's ready to go, but he pops in right before drywall, doesn't even let them know, and he goes there, and it's like, what's this? What's that? Change this, change that, because once they drywall and they tile, we're screwed. You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
One of the things he
Yeah,
caught
no,
last
for
week.
sure.
One of the things he caught last week. So I would say you can work fully remote. Like, and again, getting back to what Charlie was saying, if you're one guy in a truck or you're one guy with a couple of employees, it's very hard, right? Like you need to, like we're talking, you need to be 10, 15, 20 years into the game where you've established, you have the right employees, you got people that are trained properly. But even then, right, I would say 98% of everything you do day to day can be done remotely. That 2% is client relationship, being in front of people, popping into the job, double, triple checking before a catastrophe does happen, right? Those are all important things that people have to understand that you can't just fully put the trust in other people in construction because again, it's not, I always say, like in construction, it's not you file the wrong paperwork, which again, I'm not trying to put any other, industry down, right? But it's when something goes wrong in construction, it's inside a wall, right? Structural, roofing, water damage, where it could just be, we know a story of a couple of years ago, high-rise building going on. One guy forgot to, solder, one of the 90s. It started leaking over the weekend. By the time they came, it was like something like $7 million of damage. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, that's where, that 2%, let's say 2 to 5%, you have to be present.
With that being said, too, though, like I'll give you an example. Last week, my guy called me. He had an issue on site, and he's like, "Yeah, you got to get over here. I don't know how to handle this." So my first instinct is like, "Okay, let me squeeze this into my schedule." I looked at the traffic report, and it was going to take me, by the time it was all said and done, it was going to take me, an hour and 15, 20 minutes to get there, an hour and 15, 20 minutes to get back. So it's like 3 hours of my day. And my first instinct was like, okay, he needs me. I got to go there. I got to fix this problem. But I kind of stopped myself, and I'm like, okay, well, this is the issue. All I'm going to do is go there and look at it. He could easily just send me a picture, right? And he did. And literally in a matter of 15 minutes, we had a resolution. I didn't have to drive down there, and it was done, right? So Johnny, like just going back, like I think it's ingrained in us that construction is this face-to-face thing, which it is, but there's a lot of things like where there's a lot of fat that can be trimmed. Like you don't need, it's just like our instinct is like, I have to go, but you don't have to go. It can be resolved without you being there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I think it's like, it just goes to show you that, yeah, you're definitely right, that there are some things that, you need to be there for. There may be, even me, like, as a site guy, I may, be, let's say, out of the country and say, like, there's a job coming up, there's a walkthrough, you need to be there, right? It's like, okay, I'll fly in for that, right? But a lot of things I don't. So it just may be a hybrid model of working remotely for construction.
To me, the benefit of all these, like, I agree, Charlie, what you just said. It's like, and what you're saying, John, things behind the wall, like you have to be there. It's like, technically you don't. Like, have FaceTime, like have a guy like actually show you, and you can probably diagnose it remotely. Like, your eyes could be through the screen, really. So like, to me, like remote, again, it doesn't mean like you're checked out. It just means like you've built a company with processes that doesn't fall apart when you're not there.
Well, look,
and that's all about like the processes you have in place and the team you have.
Yeah. So look at the team like we have, right? I was gone for 3 weeks, and Charlie's right. This was one vacation. I haven't been on vacation in 2 years with my family, and I obviously I was somewhere for a family event, let's call it, that. We were going there for a specific reason, but in the midst of it, yes, we did have some beach time or whatever, right? So in the end of it, I was gone for 3 weeks, right? Yes, I had some things I had to tend to, but for the most part, I was like, yeah, I'm on vacation mode, right? Like if you need me, like pressing, call me, right? Even certain clients, they called me, and I even told them like, hey, like I'm gone right now. Yeah, that's fine. I just want to ask you a question, right? And you're gonna get that, right? But just to piggyback off what you were saying, Costa, yeah, I was gone for 3 weeks. Nothing fell apart. Sure, were there things that when I came back that I was like, okay, now I'm going to step in and rectify this because, my team tried to. They got to a certain point, and now I just got to like hammer it home 100%, right? But yeah, like for the most part, 3 weeks I was gone, checked out for, let's just say 95% of the time. Or 95% of the items, and nothing fell apart, right?
Yeah. And look, like we're talking about, like you're talking about a vacation, like the Charlie's, like you're on vacation, you're checking out, you're relaxing, like that's a vacation. Like I'm in Europe right now, been here for a while, and to me, like I'm not on vacation though. Just because I'm in another country, I'm still probably more productive and effective here than I am at home. It makes no difference. I'm just working. Again, what is remote? It's just like being wherever you want to be and working, right? That's all remote work is. But then to your point, and I agree, the whole like face-to-face, like meeting GCs and like the sales and all that. So think about everything we just like went through of like what you can actually work, what you can actually do working remotely, right? From like the scheduling, the estimating, the invoicing, the like communication, job management. You can do all that remotely. So think about if you have the freedom and flexibility to do that wherever you want to be, and how much more time you would then have to do more of that face-to-face instead of having to commute an hour back and forth to your office just because it's an office and you think you have to be there when you really don't. You can spend a lot of that time focusing on those things that will actually grow your business, which is the client, the face-to-face.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of a key benefit of working remotely. But the only way to do that is if you have systems in place. And, straight up, something like a Jobtable. That's what Jobtable allows you guys and a lot of like our clients who use Jobtable. Jobtable is a tool that allows you to do everything you have to do in a construction company, regardless of whether you're using a software or not. There's all these things that we listed. You have to do them regardless, whether you're using a software or not. Jobtable is just a tool that allows you to do all those things from the palm of your hand, from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
look, being able to do that and having those systems, you can now like start growing the business, doing them more face-to-face. Again, we're not talking about being on a beach.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that too. It's funny, like how you've kind of constructed that, and something just kind of hit me too, because like this morning, me and Charlie have a friend. He's a Jobtable user. He's also a plumber, and he owns a plumbing company. It's a smaller one, and this guy, in order to do paperwork, he always has to be at his desk. Now he runs his company from his house, which is fine. He's a smaller company. But to him, it's because he was using, again, an accounting software that everybody uses. And to him, it's like he has to sit down for it. So it's funny because now that he's really gotten the hang of Jobtable, now some of the times that I get a call from him, which like the one this morning, he was calling me, and you can hear tools in the background. And I just made a joke. I'm like, are you doing paperwork on site? Right? And he was like, yeah, man. He's like, yo, I'm taking a page out of your book. I'm like, I told you, man. You know what I mean? Like, when we talk to these guys, I know a lot of these guys think we're trying to sell them a software, right? But what we're trying to give them is freedom. You know what I mean? Yeah. $100 a month, let's say, right? Just like hypothetically, which obviously it's less than that. You're telling me for $100 a month, you wouldn't want the freedom to be able to do everything we just discussed, right? From the palm of your hand, right? Like it was like we were joking around on the phone. And Charlie, I don't know if you know exactly who I'm talking about here, but it was like I heard the drills in the back, and I was like, wait a minute, man. Are you invoicing on site right now? And he was laughing about it, right? Because normally, like this guy has to be in front of a computer screen. He's not tech savvy, right? So, you can hear one key being pressed at a time. You know what I mean? You can hear the mouse being clicked one click at a time. And just to see that and just hear that this morning and have that joke with him was just like, it's just so like ironic that we're having the same topic today. And it's like, look, here's a real life example of that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, it's like, again, it comes down to just having the right systems in place that will allow you just to have that freedom and have those additional benefits of, focusing on the company, not on like the day-to-day putting out fires and, spending more time with your family, being more present. But again, this does not mean being checked out. It just means having systems in place where you're not tied down to like being in a specific location.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the key
well said.
Point here.
Well said. Yeah. That was a good topic, guys. Yeah, that was a good topic. That was a good breakdown because we broke it down from.
Long. That's why I didn't even want to have another one. This is it.
Yeah, that was good, boys. That was good. And again, if anybody has any input, after listening to this, please, man, drop in the comments, social media. Let us know what you think, because I'm curious, because I'm pretty sure you're going to hear, many sides of the aisle here, and I want to know what you guys are doing, right? To all of our listeners, what are you guys doing, right? Are you guys trying to do this? Are you guys trying to live the hybrid model? Are you guys trying to do this fully remote where you're not stuck to a desk? Are you guys trying to do this, part-time in another country and then, living a month there, coming back, living 3 months here and then going back, right? We'd love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, and like that last one, it's not impossible, right? And why is it not impossible? Like, I have an uncle, which you guys both know, very big contracting company, and he he is on his way out, but like he's been on his way out now for like 10 plus years where like he's in Europe more than half the year. But he's been able to do that because over the last like 15 years, he's been like slowly putting the pieces in place and like setting up those processes, putting the right people, training them in the right way, incentivizing them in the right way, to eventually now he is able to like actually be remote, right? And like the company's running, you know, just as good as when he was there. So it's not impossible. It's just a matter of, you know, putting the pieces in place and the systems and the processes and using the right tools. Like
Yeah. Well said.
Right.
Well said, man.
So,
well said.
Yeah. All right, boys. That's a good one. Let's wrap it there. Again, if anyone got this far, you know, you're thinking about being in Europe for a month at a time, like go to jobtable.com, sign up.
You can't do it without Jobtable.
see how it could change your life.
100%.
But yeah. All right, boys. This is a good one. Pleasure as always, and we'll talk soon.
Next
Good
week.
to be back. Ciao, boys.
Ciao, boys. Ciao.
Okay.